Everyone, welcome to the session on Eclipse tips and tricks. I'm Lakshmi Shanmugam. I'm an Eclipse platform co-lead and I work for IBM. I will be co-presenting this session with my colleague Sarika Sinha, who is a co-lead for Eclipse JDT and platform. The Eclipse IDE has lots of powerful features that enable developers to be more productive in their day-to-day work. And with each release, which happens every quarter now, more and more features are being added. So the aim of this session is to showcase these features and highlight the tips and tricks so that you can take full advantage of them. This is the overview of the topics that we will cover in today's session, and we will be using the latest Eclipse release, that is 4.17, for the demo. I'd like to start with the dark theme. Dark theme is very popular nowadays. Almost every software and OS supports a dark theme. Eclipse 2 has its own CSS-based dark theme from a long time, and with the recent releases, there have been major improvements, and the dark theme looks more and more native and closer to the system theme. On Windows, the dark theme has seen some major changes with dark scroll bars, menus, menu bars, and toolbars. On Mac and Linux, Eclipse by default automatically launches in the dark theme if the system is in dark mode. The welcome page and the help pages also support the dark theme, and the selected tab is highlighted. A quick note here, since we will be using Mac for our demo, command will be the primary key in most of our keyboard shortcuts. On Windows and Linux, you can use Control in place of command. One of the most useful and handy commands in Eclipse is find actions, or command 3, using which you can quickly find things in Eclipse. This was formerly called as quick access, but has been improved and renamed to find actions. So let's switch to Eclipse for the demo. So I'm going to invoke find actions and type Java, and you can see that all the matching UI elements are shown, such as views, perspectives, menus, new wizards, preferences, and you can open any of these right from this dialog. You can quickly find and execute any command from find actions. For example, all the toggle commands are listed here, and you can execute them from this dialog. You can also quickly find and open any resource, similar to the open resource dialog, just from this find actions. You can also quickly search for any text from within Eclipse help using this dialog. For example, tips now opens in the Eclipse help. You can also quickly find and launch any run or debug configuration from here, as you will be seeing it later in the demo. Let's move on to some useful configuration tips. For presentations and learning purposes, it's very helpful to show the corresponding key binding or the keyboard shortcut when the command is invoked. This can be quickly enabled from the keys preferences, where you can show the key binding when the command is invoked through keyboard or through mouse click or both. I already have it enabled for both cases, and you can quickly toggle this from find actions using the toggle show key bindings command. You can fully configure the window title of the workspace from the workspace preferences, where you can provide an alias name for the workspace and also choose to show the full workspace path. This is especially useful when you have multiple workspaces. Another new feature we have here is you can customize the font of tables and trees in views. For this, you can go to the colors and fonts preference page and select tree and table font for views and edit it to a different font, or just increase the font size, and you can see this change. You can quickly zoom in and zoom out the content in the editor by pressing Command++ and Command - keys. And if you have a trackpad that supports gestures, you can use the pinch gesture to zoom in and zoom out the content. You can use Ctrl M to maximize the active editor or view, and pressing Ctrl M again will restore it back. Another new feature we have is the problem markers by default are shown on the left margin, but now you can also see the problem markers inline, and you can click on the problem marker to see the available quick fixes. And for this, you need to enable the code minings in the text editor preferences to show errors, warnings, and infos. With this, let's move on to some useful navigation and code browsing tips. You can quickly switch to an open editor using Command E, which is the quick switch editor command. And you can also quickly close an open editor by just pressing the delete key here. On Mac, it will be function delete. You can highlight all the exit points of a method by just placing your cursor on one of the exit points or on the return type, and all the other exit points are highlighted, and you can navigate through them by just using command dot key. If you want to view all the occurrences of a variable or a method in a file, you can just select the variable and you can see all the occurrences are highlighted, and you can navigate through them using command dot key. And these occurrences are also highlighted on the right margin, where you can see it if it is a write occurrence or a read occurrence. If you want to view a file in the file explorer of the system, you can use find actions to invoke the show in system explorer command, and the file will open, where the finder will open and show the file highlighted. So starting from 417, you can navigate to multiple last edit locations, where up to 15 last edit locations are remembered, and you can navigate through them using command option and left arrow, and move forward using command option and right arrow keys. The Java editor can show the number of references and implementations of a Java type as code minings, which is nothing but the decorative text on top of the Java element. And you can click on these code minings to view the references in the search view and the implementations in the type hierarchy view. The method parameter names are also shown as code minings in method calls in cases where the resolution is not obvious to the users. Eclipse also provides a mini map view, which is basically providing a high-level overview of the contents of the file, and it can be used for easy navigation of the file contents. There's a lot of functionality associated with hover, so let's look at some of them. You can hover over a Java type to view its Java doc. And if a line contains an error or warning, the warning is shown. In this case, you can use a command shift hover to view its Java doc. You can use shift hover to view the implementation of a class or a method in place. And you can use command hover on a method to find options to open implementation and super implementation. And in a lambda expression, you can hover over the arrow to view the method which is being implemented, and command hover to view the options to open declaration and open implementation. There are a lot of useful search features as well. For example, you have the quick search dialog, using which you can quickly search for any text in the workspace, and it shows you the result as fast as you type, and you can navigate to the results using the keyboard itself, and also you have the preview shown in the dialog. The quick search also extends find action, so you can perform the same search from within find actions as well, and the results are shown as proposals. And for this to work, you need to have the quick search bundle active first. If you want to perform an incremental search in a file, similar to that in the browsers, you can use command J to start the incremental find and start typing the text. And you can see that the results are shown here. You can use command J to start navigating through all the matches. Eclipse also provides find references, using which you can quickly find all the references of a Java element in the workspace. You can invoke it using command shift G, and you can see all the matching results are shown in the search view, and you can navigate through them using command dot and command shift dot. And there are a lot of filter options available as well, so you can see them here. For example, you can filter out the reads, the writes, or the matches in the test code. Eclipse also provides a very powerful Java search dialog, using which you can perform a customized Java search. You can search for a particular type of Java element, for example, a Java method or a package, limit to a particular Java scope, search in sources or libraries, and also specify the workspace scope or a working set, etc. With this, let's move on to some tips to help in troubleshooting. You can use Alt Shift F1 to view the details of the contributing plugin of a particular UI element. So this is the plugin spy, and you can use Alt Shift F2 to invoke the plugin menu spy, which gives you the details of the contributing plugin for a menu item. You can also use the layout spy. So I'm going to invoke the layout spy from find actions, and you can use this to debug the layouts in a window. For example, I have selected the control. It shows me all the details of the child controls, the layout, and I can also move up in the hierarchy. PD provides a very powerful API tooling, which basically gives you version errors, shows you any API errors, and with the latest releases, along with the version error, or it also tells you the exact reason why the error is shown, or the breaking change which is causing this error, as you can see. That's all about the demo. From my side, I would like to hand over the session to Sarika for rest of the demo.
Hello everyone, this is Sarika here to showcase some of the new and existing features in Eclipse IDE. So let us start to do some typing. Here I have missed adding plus in multiple sentences, and I can just do a quickly toggle of block selection mode, select the lines and add a plus. Or we can use it with Alt Command A shortcut as well, and then disable it to come to the normal mode. I can also move the lines by pressing Alt up or down, and I can duplicate the lines with Alt Command up or down. I can also do some word completion, like here with Control dot, I can cycle through all the words with this prefix in the open editors. Eclipse provides boilerplate codes in the form of templates. Like here, I can press Control space to activate it and use the new syntax of Java switch labeled expression. Now moving to some of the content assist features. Here I have a record class which has implicit accessor methods for length and breadth. I can activate it by pressing dot. I can select and insert any method. If I want to replace, I can do that with Control, and I can select another method. I can use a camel case. So G, T, Q will auto-complete it to get true quadrant, as well as I can do subword completion. So get quad will also complete it. Eclipse also has some postfix completion, like pressing the dot will give the available postfix completions, and I can use where to assign this. Also, Eclipse supports non-blocking computation of proposals now by default. We can see a dialog which will show the percentage computation in progress, and this does not block the other IO features. In some of the scenarios, we are interested in only the packages like list. I am interested in only the Java util list, but there might be other packages which define list. So I can use find actions, open up the type filters, and I can specify the other packages which has these types, and this will filter them out from the open declaration as well as imports and other places. Now moving to some of the Java features which has been introduced recently, like instance of is a new Java feature, and it is still a preview feature, and we can now instantiate the object as well as use them in the same condition line. For to be able to use the preview feature, we do need to enable it from the configure, and I have already enabled it for this project. Also, text block is a standard feature which is denoted by the starting of the triple quotes and ending as well. This is helpful for the strings which are spanning more than one line, as well as non-Java program codes. To learn about more on these features, you can attend the session on Thursday as well. There are many cleanups and quick fixes added in the last year, and I will like to showcase few of them. Like try with resources, there is a quick fix if to wrap it with try with resources, as well as there are some cleanups for Lambda and method invocation. So I can apply the source cleanup, and this will change it to the new method invocation syntax. I can also use Javadoc. So Javadoc features to indicate the warnings and missing things. For these things, I need to enable it in the preference page. So I can change the built-in profile and edit it to define the functional interface instances as well. Also, I can define the Javadoc to report malformed Javadoc comments. Now we have done a lot of typing. Now let's move to some of the debugging features. Java 14 has added helpful null pointer exception feature. So you can see it while running, it will report exactly as to why the return value, which of the exact variable returned a null pointer exception. In the world of exception, we have one more enhancement. Like here in the program, the same exception breakpoint object has been rethrown. And I have added a null pointer exception breakpoint. So if we do a debug of this program, it will suspend multiple times. So on the second suspension, now a new dialog is shown to the user first time in the workspace, and user can select if they want to skip it for the future object instances, or they want to suspend the program for each of the recurrence of this exception breakpoint. User can also remember this decision, or they can change it later as well in the preference page. So now after skipping, it will now not suspend to the other thrown exception objects. Now let us see some tips in the variable view. So here if I can also launch it through various ways from the pullout view, or I will show it from the find actions also. So here we can see that the variables are displayed in the variables view. Now we can also see the expressions which were executed here. So I can select a previous one as well and execute it from here. And we can see how these objects and variables are shown over here. We can change these display settings by, this is the logical show structure button. This will enable us to display it in a different way. So this is enabled by default. And we can also define the formatting of these objects through the Java preferences for the toString, as well as the logical structures for browsing variables. We can also see that the termination time is also shown over here in the console view. And console is also enhanced to take care of the backspaces, form feed, and carriage returns. We can configure these things in the preferences page. So this is the setting for suspend execution, which we saw just now. Also for the interpretation of ASCII characters, we can select here the interpret ASCII control characters. Eclipse IDE has also enhanced for Lambda debugging, and the Lambda expressions can be used here in the expression or in the conditional breakpoints. Various cases of the inner classes and anonymous classes has also been enhanced for debugging purposes. Now let us move to some of the tips in the breakpoints. We can define one or many breakpoint as a trigger point in a workspace. Here I have defined this breakpoint as a trigger point. So unless and until one of the trigger breakpoint is hit, the suspension of the program will not happen. So if we execute this program, the first time it will hit on a trigger point only. And you can see how I have organized the breakpoints. I have created the breakpoint working sets. This enables us to enable or disable them together. We can also sort these breakpoints by the different, we can group it or sort it by the name or creation time as well. Eclipse also supports trace points. So here for a method, we can add a trace point. So this adds a trace point without adding the code changes. And if we debug this program, it will not suspend the program, but it will show you the workflow and print the trace point, class, and method name. We can also toggle the method breakpoints quickly from the outline view. We can select one or multiple and do it from here itself. Now moving to some of the launch configuration tips. Here we can see the show command line button. This shows us the exact command line which will be executed for a program. Eclipse also supports remote debugging. So we can define a remote debugging launch configuration and provide the host and the port and the connection types. Also, we can define a prototype launch configuration. So we can create a new prototype launch configuration and define some common arguments or the properties which we want it to be inherited in other launch configurations. We can select any existing or create a new launch configuration and link it with a prototype. It will inherit all the attributes. We can unlink or link it to some other prototype at any moment. And we can also reset it to a prototype. That will mean it will take the new values of the prototype parameters and assignments. I wanted to highlight how a command will look when we try to start a remote debugging server. We will attach it to an agent library and provide the socket addresses as well as the suspension technique. So just to show here, we can run any of the program. Like here, if I select the helpful, I can run or launch a program from here itself. Also, if we want to show or see the shortcuts, we can use Command Shift L and see all the shortcuts available for the IDE. Remembering this and getting used to it does save a lot of time. We have a lot of debugging commands, and I will like to show some of them. Like F5, most of us know this is used for stepping into, F6 is for step over, and F7 is for step return. Also in step return, we also see now what was the return value from the method. And F8 is for resume. But for run to line, this is not very common, but my favorite. And without putting a breakpoint, we can move to the execution to a line. And drop to frame just drops and starts the execution from the starting of the method. It is not available for the main method though. And like type filters, we have step filters, and we can remove some of the packages while doing the debugging. And Control F5 or Control Alt click, this is a very useful way to step into a particular selected method when we have multiple methods in a single line. So this was all for the demo today, and we can see the documentation in the Eclipse help tips and tricks and the welcome what's new. And Eclipse news is always the best place to know what's going on in the Eclipse. Thank you very much for attending this session, and do remember to evaluate the session.
Okay, I think we have one question. Is it possible to customize the shortcut keys? I think you can do that from the keys preferences. So Sarika, you want to show the keys preferences?
Yes. So this is the key preference page, and we have some default values, as well as we can change many of them or add the missing bindings based on our preference.
Are there any other questions?
So till we are getting the question answers, I will like to highlight that Eclipse IDE supports the latest version of Java, and with 4.17 release, you can use the latest Java 15 from the marketplace entry, and with 4.18, it is readily available integrated with the Eclipse IDE as well.
Okay, so there are no more questions. So thanks a lot for joining the session.
Thank you very much.